we're 7, so 4 is quorum, I think.
Yes, first quorum.
So we have 5.
Okay, yes, very good. Okay, so let me go ahead and call the meeting to order, meeting of the City of Laredo Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone number 1. Let's go ahead and begin with roll call. And that's the list.
Let me see. I have the previous
Okay, Henry Sabinger,
Here.
Carol Alexander,
one. Here.
Patty Goldberg.
Here.
Jose Castillo.
Here.
Arturo Garcia, present. James Kirby Steinman, not present. And Ben Quaid, not present.
So noting that two of the members, we have a quorum, and 2 of the members are not present. Very good. That was item number 2 on the agenda. Item number 3 is a review and approval of the minutes from September 13th. I don't think we got them ahead of time, so let me give you a little bit of an opportunity to look through them in case you see any changes, comments.
We apologize for that because I think we had some issues with the recording, right, Tina? We weren't able to download the minutes, so you might want to take a little bit of time to review them
Okay.
because they did have difficulty with the recording. So if there's anything that's missing, please
Yeah.
let us know.
So most of it was retrieved from the video, but some of it was from our notes. So let us know if we got anything.
Thank you for getting that summary that I like to give at the beginning when I give people background on everything. I think that was good.
The only thing, Henry, I don't know is, by the time I got there late, so I don't know if there was a tabling of the item or what.
Yes, there
So
was.
I'm looking for words.
Do we get to that
and
point?
motions.
Okay, let me see.
So that might need to be included in the minutes. I don't see it. Motion to approve minutes. Unless I'm missing one, let's get to three.
So what's the last, right before this action taken?
I don't have, if you don't, let me see. On my notes, I don't have an
Yeah,
actual
but
table.
There needs to be some sort of tabling or.
So what I did was, if you recall at the meeting, I said, okay, I know that some of you, I noted that some people were ready to vote. I said, however, I think we still have some questions to address.
Okay.
So I asked the board members to indulge me, I think I remember using the word indulge me for 1 more month to give me the opportunity to meet with the city as well as with Able City.
Also, it wasn't tabled, it was just no action.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe that's so, because if I'm not mistaken, what was missing from the minutes is the first part. I think the rest of it did.
Was there?
Yes.
Yeah. So it was, yeah, I
So
guess it
no
was not a
action?
tabling, it was just a no
Second.
action.
Coming in.
Yeah, it's all right, but we can double check on, I'll double check on. the
No,
video.
I don't
You
recall
recall?
asking for a vote or anything, we just didn't take any action because
Okay.
I think the agenda just noted that with possible action, which we didn't
Correct.
act on.
Okay.
Okay, let me give you a chance to finish. Okay, we were just reviewing the minutes of the last meeting.
Oh, we're having a moment of silence. Somebody, did we lose somebody?
No, no.
Let the record reflect that Mr. Simon is present, Mr. Chairman.
So noted. Thank you. Very good. Are there any comments, corrections, additions, deletions to the minutes? Sensing none, I'd like to entertain a motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 4, citizen comments. Citizens are required to fill out a witness card and submit it to the chairperson or designee no later than 2:45 and identify themselves at the microphone. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. No more than 3 persons will be allowed to speak on any side of an issue. Should there be more than 3 people who wish to speak on a particular issue, they need to select not more than 3 representatives to speak for them, and the presiding officer may limit public comments further in the interest of an orderly meeting. Speakers may not pass their minutes to another speaker. Comments should be relevant to the city business and delivered in a professional manner. No derogatory remarks will be permitted. Let me just note that on our sign-in sheet, we tend to sign in everybody that's in the room so that we have a log of the visitors as well. So I don't know where that is going around, but we need to just I want to make sure that Jose and Viviana have had a chance to put their names on the log.
I have. Yes.
Okay, so.
I would like to
yes.
make a comment.
Yes, of course.
Really just a point of information for you all. And you're aware of this, I think some of you are aware of it. So we've asked the city to resume a version of a roundtable for the downtown stakeholder groups. They have not responded yet, but I will follow up to see who they're going to name. And we also haven't set the structure for that particular roundtable organization, but certainly it needs to include folks from this organization and others. I think everybody knows that you at some point been at a meeting where we've talked about it. So maybe for the next meeting, I'll work with you to see if we could have something on the agenda where maybe you officially designate. And then we also at that time kind of talk through the structure that we would see that organization playing, more of a communication collaborative format as opposed to like a service organization. And I wanted to just kind of state, I know you're aware because you've been at those meetings. The second piece is that tomorrow there'll be a transportation and traffic advisory board meeting. I'm not sure if I'm getting the title right. They are going to discuss what we asked the city related to the downtown parking study and rate increase. They are going to entertain potentially putting that advisory board that the traffic study is calling for under that committee. Mr. McGee wasn't really sure if that's going to be final or if that's going to be the recommendation, so it's the first conversation about that. So just for you all to be aware, that meeting is tomorrow at 6 at the, I'll get that insured with you all, but it's occurring tomorrow. I think I want to say this City Hall, but I'm not sure.
I'll be traveling tomorrow, starting tomorrow and through Friday, so if any of the board members could attend, that would be great. I think this dovetails with Carol's comment earlier when we first arrived about at least the need to have an organization or a group that's discussing the issues that are related to, at the very least, this zone in this area that affects us.
Yeah, and so we asked the city to name a couple of folks that could work with that roundtable, just so that what happened with the traffic study, that we were kind of all surprised, doesn't get repeated, and we at least have a forum to meet monthly with the different groups or every other month.
I have a question. Why do you think that there's no formal committee, formally recognized city committee connected to the central business district or the downtown area?
My opinion, I just think it has not been an objective hasn't been set. I know we have kind of an ad hoc conference center roundtable, and we try to do a few things while we were planning that. And that's a very important question, because the matter of what structure do we want this roundtable to have? Is it something that we want the city to drive, or is it something that we want the stakeholder group to drive, right? So that's an important piece. But to answer your question, I just don't think that there's been a focus or an objective to set that from the city. Personally, I don't know that I would prefer a city-formed committee. I think that my inclination is to have a private, nonprofit, TERS, where you have quasi-public groups, where the city is a part through to designated people. I think that would probably be best. Not saying that agendas would be driven by the city if the city formed a group, but that could happen. So I think it's important for us to have a few degrees of separation when we form a collaborative group. And that's my own personal opinion.
How successful have you?
Yeah, with the conference center, we were very successful. We never got into the developmental issues. We did on the periphery. And I want developmental meaning building code issues that folks are still facing when they're redeveloping downtown. We never got to that, but we did get to a lot of other things. And in that case, the liaison was Blasita, who was not really a technical person. We think we need a building liaison, right? So I think anybody that's tried developing down here knows that we need that. It's now been years since we've asked for an official liaison. We got for the conference center, we got Blasita, and that was, I want to say that we made some progress in a few things, but we need that continuum going forward with technical folks too, so that we can actually work on the meat of the development issues, aside from the communication gaps that we currently have.
So certainly you'd have an interest from, for participation from the TERS, a member of the TERS or something that would participate in that. Certainly we want to keep in touch with the downtown initiatives and downtown conversations.
Yeah, and I mean, what we're saying for now is to have a member, designate a member and an alternate,
Right.
and then let's decide together what structure we want to have it. The city has said that they would participate. I would, obviously Arturo's now at the building department. We need a liaison at the building department. That's not news. We've been saying that for 3 years. So hopefully someday we'll have one that can work with the folks that are investing and building out downtown.
Very good.
So, I mean, I kind of long-winded in my answers, but there's a lot to do. I mean, Tina just came back from a Reclaim It Vacant Building conference. I didn't make it. There's a lot of work to be done there in terms of that area. A lot of communication work, engagement work with stakeholders before we even try to write up a draft of an ordinance.
Right.
I think they have a lot of buy-in right now for the potential. I know we're drifting from the subject a little bit, but buy-in for an ordinance for vacant buildings.
Yeah. Well, and those of you that went to the housing summit, we talked about that. We had San Antonio here talking about how they implemented it. And it's the best ordinance that I've read, I've read about or talked to folks about are incremental. You can't shock folks into reappraising their properties. It's got to be, there's got to be proper notice, proper engagement, and notification to folks about what could be coming. And it's central to what this board does, for sure.
Very good.
I hope I answered your question. I know I'm kind of long-winded, but.
No, I do think we need to keep in touch with this and abreast of the conversation. So I appreciate your talking to us about this, and definitely, just even as citizens or stakeholders in the downtown area, individually, we're interested. So thanks.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay, any other citizen comments? Okay, let's go ahead and go to the next item, item 5, discussion with possible action to award contract for services. Label City, the sole proposal for consultant services to the downtown TERS. So let me describe, and what you have in your packets is the proposal submitted on June 24th by Able City to delineate and describe the cost of the project. If you recall at the meeting, the discussion focused on the administrative side of this agreement, because there were items there in the agreement that the city said, and the city spoke up and said, some of this we don't need to farm out, we can be doing ourselves, and then a
Who
couple.
said that?
The legal department opined that when they reviewed this contract. And then, I think Ben Puig, another board member, had a couple of questions regarding the values on the agreement. So what I did was, I asked the board to give me an opportunity to return and speak to the city, and then again speak to Able City, to ask them to let's talk about this a little bit more. I met with the co-city manager, and she brought to the meeting representatives from the finance department, legal department. Who else was there? Yeah.
And myself, community development.
That's right, community. And so we discussed, we went through the line items, discussing what we needed at this point, didn't need at this point, and came up with a general idea of what the comfort level that the city might be in terms of expenditures per month, but nothing set in stone. It was just a general discussion, because I was going to go back to Able City and then discuss our conversation with Able City. As an example of part of the conversation, on the original proposal, we talk about website development, and I'm using it because it's easy to grasp hold of, where someone said, well, do we need a website at this time? No, I don't think if we don't need a website at this time, you can scratch out that amount that's listed on website development. And so then, the advantage to the proposal presented by Able City, and thank you, Viviana, for being here, is that we actually see line by line by line every task and what the charge for the task is going to be estimated. But the confusion arose at the point where it appears that this would be a $12,681 expenditure a month. And so that's where the question started.
I want to be clear on that. That discussion never occurred. That was brought up, and we said that it was up to, and it didn't necessarily indicate that it was going to be that monthly expense of $4,000 per month. That was said several times.
That was true, and we mentioned it at the meeting, but unfortunately, we didn't re-emphasize. We emphasized that at the meeting. But the point, my point at the meeting was that Ben Puig had been at the same meetings we had been at, you and I.
Yeah, me,
So-
you, and Ben.
I know.
We were there, and we were very clear, and we understood very clearly that it was an up to, and didn't necessarily mean it was going to be a monthly. We could detract, add. It was just going to be a menu of services that we could just
Right.
add at any time we wanted to.
Got it.
That's all it was.
Yeah.
And my question is, well, go ahead.
Good. So I want to show you something new that just was arrived, a revision, because we did meet with the city. We discussed the same points again. Those points were re-emphasized. I met with Able City
When
to
you say you
discuss.
met with the city, who'd you meet with?
I met with the co-city manager, with the legal department, with the finance department, and with community development. And then after that meeting and our conversation at the meeting, and Jose, I totally took back the
Yeah.
comments for you. They comments went back to you, right, on that meeting, because I know you couldn't be there that. I committed to meeting with Able City to bring back the comments, okay? So I met with Able City, met with Viviana Frank, with Frank Smolsky, and with Mario Peña. And they reviewed everything, and a couple of days ago sent something revised so that we can see it. And so I wanted to share it with everyone. This is for our review right now, not for anything official to take action, because I need you to review this with time. But I want to show you what they've done here, which I thought was very helpful.
I have it on my phone.
So what they did here was they took the same menu that we had, but we discussed a couple of things that I thought are crystallized in this proposal. So consultancy service, they created an if you'll turn to page 29, the second page, that'll serve as a good example for how they broke things out. They reviewed the list they had, and they broke out of the list things that were one-time fixed fee costs. Because in the original proposal, it appeared that it was, again, month after month, 12,000, which is not the case, because, for example, once they did item 1.2, it's a one-time fixed fee expense, and you're not gonna see that reoccurring. What they did keep under the monthly budget was that what reoccurs every month. They did two other things. They broke out the consultant fees, because what we would do is they would tell us when they were gonna use the consultant and work with the consultant, and we would ask them. We would decide as a board, yes, bring in a consultant because we need additional work or information from the consultant. That's a separate fee, so they wouldn't expend it unless we approved it. And then they have the optional services section, and this is basically if we requested it. So what I'm asking the board to do now, and not at this meeting, is to review this. You have both budgets in your packet now. I think you'll find similarities in the budget, except that they've broken it down in a different format so that they're understandable.
Well, if I can, I would suggest that we not wait for an additional meeting. I would suggest, I was happy with the previous, and I'm happy with the work that Able Cities done. Working with them right now, I've worked with many sub-consultants and consultants over the years. A contract is not the valuable thing. What's valuable is you find a partner you can work with. Very much Able Cities has done a great job with Laredo, the work we're doing with them with the city. So I trust that they're not overbilling. I've looked at the billing and what they're sending, and they're very much conscious of what they're providing as a service. So I think for this is the congruent with what they already said. They just broke it up a different way. I would suggest that we approve this today.
Okay. So we have a comment, a recommendation on approving the budget as they're presenting it. As Kirby noted, there's not an increase. What they've done is they've broken it out so that we see. If you'll turn to page 6, page 6, you'll see that if you take all of the one-time fixed fees, it's 12,500, and then the recurring monthly budget is 8,231. That is that's very close in line to the conversation we had at the meeting with the city manager, where we talked about a range of somewhere from 85 to 100, if you recall, or 95, around that area. So it fits the discussion with the city manager's office, because we were not locked in stone with the city manager's office, but I asked for a comfort level that we would be close to. Obviously, there's going to be some negotiating, and they came, without having to go back, they came very close to that comfort level on their, the way they put this together. What's not here, and I want to reemphasize, because I want this for the record on the minutes, that they have broken out the consultancy fees that we may require, for example, from Sue Darcy, that's her name, right? Sue Darcy, who works with other churches in other cities who we may be needing her advice and her expertise from time to time. That would be a service we would contract. They took out a lot of the, Viviana, I want to let you speak for yourself. Sorry about that. What did I leave out?
Can I just interject a little bit real quick? Sorry. Can we just go over it? I mean, we're here.
We could.
Let's just go over it. I mean, you're telling
Well, we
me
could
it's-
go over it, but to me, it's basically being very familiar with the previous contract. This is basically the same contract, just broken out a different way. If there's something different, sure, let's highlight that. But as I see it, this is not departing in any significant way from the previous contract.
Right.
We need to get someone on board to start working out. I don't want to delay another meeting.
Right.
So At some point, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt this, and we can open up for discussion before we take a final.
I don't disagree with you on that, I just don't feel comfortable when I just give them a document and then you approve it like that 5 minutes before.
Yeah.
So I'm willing, you allow me time to look at,
Yeah.
read it, and I'm willing to.
So Viviana, why don't we turn it over to Viviana, just so you can discuss it a little bit, Viviana?
So, thank you, and thank you for inviting me to the meeting. Basically, what we had discovered in talking to Mr. Suene during the meeting at our office was that there wasn't a clarity that said, well, once this is over, if you look at the monthly budget, there are tasks that could be finished within a couple of months, but it was as if it was a monthly reoccurring charge. So what we did is we put that together as like what we thought would be a one-time cost for actually doing that particular task. But the other partial incongruency that perhaps caused some people to misunderstand our intention here is that when it was broken down this way, we thought we made it clear that actually even today all these line items are
It's still
they're
optional.
They're optional.
No, everything is
It's
optional.
optional. So what really I think needs to happen is if this gets approved and when it gets approved, is to just have a planning meeting where we go through this and we say, okay, task number 1, 2, 3, and 4, this is what we need right now. Let's get to it, and we're all on the same page on what we're going to be tasking out for the next couple of months. But that initial meeting is important because what I think needs to happen is we need to tie down exactly what the city is willing to do, and they've always been great partners. If there's clarity on what they need to do in terms of a list of tasks, they will do it. But we need to give them that, and we need to have a memorandum of agreement, and so that we start on a sure foot on what is going to be done by one party and another party. All the other items in here that have to do with other local government districts like LC or the county or whatever, that's optional. And if we come together and we decide we need to actually go about and do that, then we'll figure out how much time and resources that will take and what we need to do, presentation, whatever it is, and we'll pull it together. I left out, or not left out, but Sue Darcy had some numbers in here. She's, in my experience with her is that she's incredibly talented in dealing with all kinds of TERZs. That they all have different personalities and different people in them and different cultures, and she has a lot of experience in all these nuances, and especially with where it comes to financing and really looking at the numbers and seeing what we can do. She's incredible, and I would caution not to use her. I mean, we need to, just like when you ask your attorney, I want you to just look at this item for now, so it's not an ongoing thing. So that's what we need to do. We need to say, okay, we need help here or here or here, and ask her for help. I understand, actually, that Mr. Seifert has known Sue for.
Yeah, she's outside of, in Texas, she's the expert on TERZs, so we're lucky to have her willing to work with us, because she only has so much time.
Right. So,
That's basically,
anything
that's
else?
that's it. Unless
Now,
you have
Viviana, you
anything.
did mention one thing, and one thing that when I met with the Able City is they talked about, of course, let's meet at 6 months or 9-month period to review progress, contract, etc. In other words, it can stop when,
That's what I wanted to know.
Right.
In this contract, we're not agreeing to any timeline. It's, as far as we're concerned, it's at will. So if we don't like what they're billing for month to month, if we feel like they're not providing a good service, then we end it and we can go out for another. But
Right.
based on my experience with Able Cities, we have a contract with them. Even though we have a contract, some consultants stick very much to what's in there, but they've been very flexible on adjusting where I'm bringing on new staff who can do different things. They're very flexible to adjusting. So if we find that if the legal department, somehow I can never get a hold of them, but if they find they have extra time to help us with something, which we should, we should plan on that. But if somehow they've got extra time and they want to work on some of these things, I'm sure Able Cities would be more than happy to scale back some. The reality is we need staff that's going to move forward, and even hiring one person would not be as good as having a team of people with different skills that could work on it. So I'm very comfortable. I don't know how long we need to discuss this. I'm very comfortable with what they presented.
no, it's not a matter of time as much as a matter of comfort. And I'll be very direct as I was the last time at the last meeting about why we didn't take action the last time we met on this, is that the TERS, legally how the TERS is set up, it's independent. And we all realize that. The board members were appointed by the city. It has a legal independence to it. However, we also know how we do need comfort level at the city level, because we don't want what happens at other cities. Once a city is not comfortable with something, it can put the kibosh on the project moving forward. I don't want that. I want to include the community the way we've done it so far, and we've been pretty inclusive, not leaving anybody out of this conversation, and certainly the city part of this. I agree with what you're saying. Let's just make sure that all of the board members here agree with you. And although I didn't think we would take action today, we can take action today because it is the item that has been presented before.
Can we hear from some of the other members and
Yes. Anybody?
comfort?
Are there any other?
I'm comfortable.
Yeah, I'm there exactly what you said, Kirby. I'm comfortable and I feel
And
confident.
mostly because it's a menu. We can pick whatever
And
we
there's no
want, and
time.
there's no,
Yeah,
I'm very
next
comfortable.
month we don't
And
like
the
it, we get rid of
expertise
it.
level, and Sue's already connected to our TERS from the beginning.
My only comment would be if we're gonna put out like an amount on the total amount of the contract. I know we're saying it's gonna be a menu based on optional services that we want, but do we need to have an amount not to exceed a certain amount on the contract?
I would suggest no, because we may find that, especially in the beginning, that this is getting started. There's not a lot, where we don't have a lot of funds built up. There's not a lot going on for them. And then some months we may want to spend that, but then we may find, we put a cap on it. Well, we can't get done what we need to get done this month. We've got to spread it out over 3 or 4 months, so.
And
I wouldn't limit us.
I don't feel like we're rushing. We've been at this for a very long time.
3 or 4 months.
Well, years.
And years,
Well, I'm-
2
Yeah,
years.
yeah, I mean, we've been looking for this, we've been looking for this
Forever.
forever, and we're ready to get started. I think we're ready to
I
get
think to your
started.
point, Jose, I think maybe a comfort level there should be that we as a board, it's our responsibility to be reviewing this on a monthly basis. And I'm just using an example, but if month 1 it comes in, at 8,000, month 2, 9,000, month 3, 25,000, and we're just not comfortable with that expense and why it was expended, that's it, it's capped. That option that the board has. I agree with caps when you're turning something over and you're not going to supervise it, but I expect us to be very active board members on this. I know where you're coming
Yeah,
from.
but normally, I mean, that, I'm coming from the city side. Normally, when we award a contract, we award a contract for services, and it's up to this amount, a maximum amount, a cap. And I understand that this one is up, most of the services are optional. We're gonna decide which items we wanna work with. But that's where I'm coming from. Normally, we would have a cap, and I was doing some figures right now. If we were to do like 8,231 per month for 12 months, plus a fixed cost, it would mean, which is not, we're not gonna incur that amount on a monthly basis, the 8,000. But it's a value of 111,000. And if you do it for 2 years, it could be up to 210,000
So,
on a 2-year. Taking the maximum amount on a monthly basis of 8,000 to 31, plus a fixed cost. And I don't know if.
Plus consultancy, we use a consultancy.
If we use a
services.
consultant,
Right.
yes.
That's a part.
Mhm.
So there,
So-
I don't
So I
know,
so I have a few questions. I mean,
Please.
so you've already talked to city management and they're okay with what you're, yeah?
No, this revision just came in.
Okay.
What we discussed was we talked about if they're not, if they were not what was the discomfort with the way it was proposed? And so they've come back and they've explained it better in terms of which are the one-time fees and which are the recurring fees. And we've taken the consultancy out of that.
Okay. So you think management, for the conversation you had directly with management, that they would be acceptable to this?
Yes,
Proposal.
because for the reason that we talked about in very general terms, there was nothing written in stone. We talked about an amount over a 9-month period that might run about $90,000.
Okay, I just wanted to
Yeah.
speak clear. I don't want to.
No, I get what you're
And then
saying.
there's some sort of dispute that we don't know about, because you've been the liaison to management directly on this, so just want to make sure that everything's kosher.
Yeah.
Between the city and.
My impression
the
is
board.
that it is.
Okay. And then, second question is, the monthly, expense here, that is gonna be like up to 8,200 like we had agreed to, and then this one-time fixed fees, I don't understand what that is. What is that?
that is our thoughts on what it's going to cost to accomplish that task, and so it doesn't have a monthly
It's not
thing.
recurring.
You can divide it up monthly, but it's not
Recurring.
So
recurring.
I guess I'm trying to understand, when we say one-time fixed fee, it's, you're only charging me in a year 12,550, or is it every month?
No,
That's what I'm asking, I'm sorry. Just to, I wanna have a good understanding so I can be able to vote.
well, so if you look at, for instance, let's go to 1.1.
1.1, okay?
So we figure, prepare an annual 5-year capital improvement plan.
Mhm.
We figure, okay, if you look at the hours and see, when
Oh,
you're
I
saying.
get you now. Now
So-
you're talking over here on the one-time fixed fee.
Yes.
Okay, now, so I'm looking at
Okay.
this real quickly, guys.
So that's you already have an
Right.
understanding of what the cost is per hour.
Okay.
So if the issue is, once we discuss on what we're gonna do,
That's what
for
you're
a
asking.
particular task, then you don't have to ask us
It's a one-time.
the cost per hour. You can say, well, how much time do you think? Oh, okay, you think it's gonna take this much time? Fine, we're happy with that, or whatever.
And the idea here, I think, Viviana, to clarify also, and to add to what you're saying, is that if this is done in the first month, 2 months, let's say example, it's not going to be a reoccurring expense anymore. It was.
It's done.
It's done.
Are there
So-
any, okay, so that question's been answered.
Right, and that was
So-
what I thought was confusing, is that.
It's not recurring.
It's not, you're right. Well, it doesn't have to be, and so, the other thing is too, is that we may come together in an initial planning meeting, which should take 2 to 3 hours, I think. We should have
I think
some
we have
place
a
to go
general,
to.
I think if you have a general understanding that you're doing something and then it's reviewed and that work is
Yes.
done, I'm okay with that. So the
If
next
I could
question I
just-
got, is, are there any changes to the amounts that were proposed in the initial proposal?
No.
No, zero. Okay, I'm kind of quickly going by trust here.
What
And
do you
then
mean by change in the amount?
just any of the hourly rates or anything like that being changed from the original proposal?
I don't think so. Not anything that
And we
I,
had diligently reviewed those amounts as well.
But that's what I was scanning for, and I didn't see any differences between projects they were doing and rates they were billing.
I just want confirmation.
Yeah, hold on a second. That can easily be done by looking at this one and putting it.
Yeah, 1 to 1. So you maintain basically the same hourly rates for the principal, associate, and staff members, right? You just broke this big table into different,
Yes.
different
Yes.
sections.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
It
But
looks
if
like
there's
what-
any mistake or anything that comes up, I mean,
Okay, I'm just.
It looks like you just broke out the one
Just got thrown out,
and everything else
for 5 minutes
is
and
about
I'm
the
expecting
same.
to vote on it.
No, we're not, don't feel any
Yeah,
pressure.
Arturo.
Don't feel any
So I'm
pressure.
trying
For
to-
anybody that's considering voting today, you're not voting on a piece of paper, you're voting on what we've seen over the last 3 months and reviewing this. You're voting on our previous relationship with, look, we could get a better living contract from another consultant who we've never heard of. But there's a level of comfort here that I would expect should be here based on their past performance, which to me outweighs any little small discrepancy that you feel like I may need to review. Now, that's your personal decision, how you vote, but I could just speak to my experience with April Cities. And I think the church is lucky to have them working on this.
I'm getting comfort with this thing now that I'm looking at it. I just read it all, so it basically says the same things, and basically I like that breakdown now that I have an understanding of this, and I just wanted confirmation on that the fees didn't change as to what we had initially agreed, so I'm comfortable with that. I do want to recommend several things. I wouldn't want to make this a maximum of 5-year with a renewable 1-year term each term. Every year we renew. Cancellation within 30 days. I'd like to also ensure that the board approves each monthly payment that is brought before it's issued out by the city. Those would be the requests that I would have if we do a motion.
So if we don't form quorum, then we don't pay them?
Correct.
Yeah, I wouldn't feel comfortable with that.
I don't think we've ever not had quorum, have we?
No, we always,
We've been here for 2 years,
this group
more
always
than
has
2
quorum.
years, and there's never been.
I just like to be,
But I thought
I mean,
this
the other
was-
satisfactory thing I could think is we get a monthly report so we can review it before it gets dispersed, so in case we have any questions on it, we can, I just wanna have time as a board member, if I'm on the board a year from now, I wanna be able what we're paying for. See what we're paying for, either
Okay.
a report format or something to the board.
So then, why don't we put this in the form of a motion?
So what are you
I have a
saying?
question about that. Are you saying that on top of all of these fees, now that's another additional duty?
No, that's part of
is-
the report, I mean, they're just supposed to report, whoever's gonna be the administrative person, report on, here's the request for payment, and here's all the services done for that month.
Yeah, that's
And-
Right, but so that should be in here already.
Yeah, I was asking for it to be approved by the board as a motion every month, but that's, I guess, doesn't look like that's the case with some of you all. So the secondary aspect would be that it would be in the form of a report once it's reimbursed or paid out, so we could see what was done,
I feel more comfortable with that.
so.
I don't think we want to tie, well, my personal opinion would be not to tie our vote to payment every month. That seems a little bit heavy-handed. But that if we review maybe quarterly, so reviewing their work, because some work may.
Well, that's my concern, Kirby, because who's gonna review?
Oh, before payment, you mean?
Yeah, what's the work that was issued out, the directives, and who's gonna
It's just like a
review?
bank does for a contractor. You know, they review what's been, and what they're asking to be paid for.
Not that I don't trust them, I mean, I'm sure, I mean.
Yeah, it'd be nice to
I feel
see what
comfortable,
we're
but-
getting.
Right,
But
it'd be
as a
nice.
board, we need to have a check and balance.
Is monthly necessary or is quarterly?
Quarterly, okay.
Monthly seems.
It's up to the, board. I'm just throwing those
Yeah.
concerns I have about.
No,
for consideration.
I agree. So the idea here being is that we agree to the contract, and with review, and the board has to review a quarterly update, a quarterly review of the contract. And that seems good, in my opinion, because at the end of 2 quarters is the 6 month, 3 quarters, 9 month, and that was the period of time we were talking about where we would have a feel if this is moving in the direction we need to be
I'm okay with
moving
it,
in.
I'm okay, I don't know, I just wanna make sure that we get some sort of update
Feedback.
and feedback, and we know what's,
Yeah, I
what
agree that-
motion's going,
Yeah.
you know, not just the check's going out and we don't even know what's going
Right.
on.
What would they?
Agree.
The
I hope to be able to
5-year,
see what.
Thank you, that's what I'm saying.
the 5-year, the way you word, I think we're gonna be careful when we word that. I like it that it's at will. Not that it's tied to something that someone may miscommunicate. In a couple of years when it's not us, it's somebody else maybe. that we're not making the contract for 5 years, but that it's at will. Maybe a statement to that effect, that if we're ever by vote, we're unpleased, you know.
And I think he added that. So that's why, that's what he said, it's a 5-year contract renewable every year with a 30-day notice if we cancel the contract.
5-year contract.
Well, I'm saying.
Yeah, why is that
no,
necessary?
The other way I'm thinking about it, Kirby, maybe I said it wrong. What I meant was a 1-year contract with 4 renewals, or maybe we make it with 2 renewals to be 3 years instead of 5, to make everybody feel more comfortable. I'm just talking about, we renew it every year.
What makes you uncomfortable about just having it at will, that they have 30 days?
I don't have any discomfort, I just want to, in case the board changes, or the composition changes, or maybe there's some sort of, you know.
Well,
But why put any,
let me ask a
why put
question.
any years?
But this is-
Because
Yeah, I like the
30-day notice, it
simplicity
kind of
of
doesn't make
30
I
sense.
agree, but I want to talk about the city,
About
the contracts that the city has had in the past. Does the city have at-will contracts in terms of, because this is going to go from a design and concept into construction.
Yeah, project management. I've seen contracts where it's a contract for this project and it has a cap, X amount. And then there's other contracts that I've seen where there's a clause that says a 30-day notice to rescind the contract. I've seen it both ways.
So it sounds like we have the flexibility.
I just want to give us flexibility.
So that the most flexible is that we agree to the contract with a 30-day out clause.
Right.
Okay.
No yearly anything. It's not necessary.
Just a 3-year contract or something?
No, not even, no number of years. Just leave it open.
I would say
Because it's a 30-day,
that Able Cities didn't ask for
Right.
years speaks to having confidence in their work.
No,
Because
yeah.
if they did, they'd be like, well, let's get
Let's
bind
get
it
it
to 3 years.
bind it.
And
We're not asking for
I recognize a year is not going to be sufficient. This is a 3 to 5 year process that we're going to be undertaking to get to where we're moving. So, Yes.
Well, can I,
yeah, go ahead.
you know, there might be a moment in time when there is somebody that comes in from the city or from wherever that's, you know, can be that perfect liaison, and somebody's gonna, you know, we're happy to pass over whatever it is that we need to pass over to somebody who wants to do what we're doing in here from the administrative point of view. You know, we didn't ask for a lengthy contract or anything like that. I certainly don't want to be in a position where I'm working, or our office is working with anybody who feels uncomfortable with the work that we're producing, you know? And we want to be able to, you know, make sure that you all know that, and there's no need for a long-term contract. But I do say that we're, you know, it's fine, 30 days is, and if you don't have, I mean, unless you feel like you have to bind us, it's like, are
Yeah.
you afraid we're gonna go away or something?
Right.
That's what I was
I'm thinking, like, you guys throw this thing at me like, okay, you guys gotta vote on this like in 5 minutes. I'm like, oh god.
No, but that's what we were
My brain
wondering.
starts kicking in like.
But we also want to be clear, because I know you said that a couple of times now, Arturo, we want to be clear that what was presented was not a totally new contract.
Correct.
What was presented was a version of the old contract in a format that
It was more readable.
that was understandable,
Right.
readable by us, because we asked for that clarification. So I just want to be clear for the record that it's not a new contract,
New proposal.
or a new proposal, I should say. Thank you.
more understanding.
Okay.
Well, and I'll say, that's how I understood it, so forgive me if I sound a little eager, I'm just excited that we have a good partner on this, and I know what TERS can do with my experience with TERS. I'm excited to get moving, and not have another meeting where we're discussing the contract. So forgive me if I was sound a little impatient, I'm just excited that we've got to a point where we can vote on something like.
Right.
hopefully
Better
that's
did
all.
it last time, so you're good.
Yeah, no, you've been at 3 meetings, I've been at, you know, I don't know, 24 meetings.
Just as
and I'm
excited last time.
And
Yeah.
my questioning
Because
has
I-
no relationship to whether I want to do it or
Right,
not.
right.
Yeah,
It's just
agreed.
being
No, and I
comfortable with the
respect your
document thrown in
expertise,
every
yeah.
5
No,
minutes ago.
and it's something that needs to be very clear also, okay?
Because I too feel very comfortable with the first
The
proposal.
difficult part of this contract is page 5 forward. That's where the challenge starts coming in. That's the project. This is all the
Yeah.
conceptual administrative side, moving up to this. And Viviana, we talked about this with Able City a couple of times, you know, when we were with Ben and Arturo and myself, and then again, when we met. I mean, we're not, this first part, the project development side, the goal here is about 9 months, más o menos, more or less.
It can be a time, it can be.
So that we can just move, we want to move into the project development part. And the one thing that we talked about, I wanted to mention at the meeting with the city manager is, key to this is that we're gonna need project money for this. Leverage the money that is in the TERS to get some money to move forward with this project. Because the enemy of the TERS right now is to drag this out
It's
over
time.
30
It's
years.
time.
Because then administrative costs will sink us. We need to design, move forward. Year 2, year 3, we're finishing it off. And then we've saved ourselves tons in administrative costs because we've done it very quickly. That's the idea. But in order to do that, and the city manager recognized that point, we're not gonna have enough money in the TERS to do that. We're going to need the city's help in leveraging what the TERS does have to at least double, triple the amount.
And what we also are gonna need and hope and pray for is that the stakeholders in this area will band together and take care and provide for themselves to maintain what the church is gonna build. And that missing piece of the puzzle is important.
It's a subject for another discussion because
I just putting it up.
it's an important discussion. But yes, we're gonna need to work with that through a management zone or something.
So,
Okay, can I ask a board member to please summarize and put in motion format?
Yes, I'll make a motion that we adopt the contract presented today with one addition that we put a clause of a 30-day notice for ending the contract.
There's been a motion that we adopt the proposal as presented in contract format with the addition of a 30-day out clause. Is there a
For both parties.
For both parties. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or further discussion? Sensing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. For the record, there were no nays. All ayes, the motion carries. Very good.
Congratulations.
Congratulations
To us.
to you all.
I was gonna say,
Congratulations.
this is like a work.
Yeah, this is
We have
just,
to work now.
you know, and again, it's been an interesting process. It's been a long process. In fairness to the group, and I say this over and over again, we really haven't had money to be moving forward with the project. I know we keep on saying we could leverage, but the city hasn't necessarily said, yeah, let's go leverage it. So we're getting to that position now.
So may I ask?
Yes.
That at some point today, you'll come together on a date for a 3-hour retreat so that we can
So what I'll do
put a lot of
is,
this stuff together in one bag.
I'll circulate, I mean, unless someone has their calendars now and would like to set something up at this moment, I could also circulate
Can I
something.
suggest that cities look at what they can do and give us
3 options,
3 or 4 options?
In terms of dates?
Yeah.
Okay.
and then we'll sign
But
up.
maybe we could just generally say, are there days that work better? Like Fridays are usually slower, it's one of the slowest days for me.
Yes, I will tell you, I'm going to be out from the 16th to the 24th, of this month. So if y'all want to meet beforehand,
No, I'd suggest after that.
after that?
Yeah,
In
I
the
agree.
first week of November.
I
Okay.
agree.
Which
I
is
agree.
separately.
That'll also give us an opportunity to work with the city to put this in contract format. I will contact the city manager and see how that looks, because we don't have a legal person on board to do that, and the city will be doing that. So we want to have that in there. Okay, very good. Next item on the agenda is adjournment. But before that, I just want to note that the next meeting,
November 5th, I think? I sent out an invite to everybody.
very good, the next meeting is set for, no, the 5th is the first Tuesday, so it's November 12th.
12th, yeah. Sunday.
November 12th, and it will not be at 2:30, it will be at 5:30. Okay? November 12th at 5:30.
Will there be a calendar item going out?
Yeah, there was already one. I sent one out. I sent it out yesterday.
Okay,
Motion to adjourn.
then moved and
I think I come
seconded, all those in favor? Meeting adjourned.
Because I sent one,
Thank you.
put 5:30 today, but I can't change it because it should have been 5:30.
I was on my way to the other office.
Dave, coming over to you.
Congratulations.